Hi everyone, my name is Roxie. I am the owner and master trainer here at CoreBound Pilates, which is a prehab and rehab focused studio geared towards helping you unfuck your body. And today I just want to talk about, if you've never taken a class with me, or if you've just started taking classes with me, you might notice that I don't visually demonstrate with my body how to do anything. And sometimes when all of your background with movement has been from a visual reference point, coming into a space where you don't have a visual reference can feel kind of disorienting, and it can feel very overwhelming. And so many of you come to me and you say, but Roxie, like, I'm a visual learner, I just need to see it, like, can you just show me and then I'll do it? And I really want to hit the nail on the head with why that way of thinking can really hold you back in your Pilates practice, and why I train pretty much all the time without demonstrating. So before we get into it, I just want to start by saying, if this is totally new to you, if not having a visual reference is something that you are not used to, I just want to give you permission to take it slow. It is completely okay if you have to sit there and pause to really think about what is being asked of you and move your body slowly, because building that mind-body connection, it takes time. It is very difficult to hear words, translate them through your head. So my words coming through your brain, from my brain into your body, into action. That's a lot of steps. That's a lot of conversion that has to happen. And it's gonna take you time to get to a place where when somebody tells you what to do, you can respond very quickly. And in the beginning, it can feel a little bit intimidating, and it can feel like, oh my God, I gotta look around at what everyone else is doing. Or maybe you even avoid doing online work with me because you're worried that you won't have the visual reference, or that I won't be able to kind of see the things that I need to see to help you in your practice, especially if you're coming in with like an injury or hypermobility. But part of not having that visual reference is helping you build that mind-body connection, because the most important thing we're doing here, above all else, the only thing that I really, really want you to take away from training with me ever is a better understanding and a better embodied feeling in your own body. Like, I want you to feel confident in, what does a straight arm feel like? What does a straight leg feel like? What's the difference between a nerve sensation and a muscle sensation? That's what we're learning here. We're giving you the tools to understand your body better so that you know what it needs, and you can be your own best advocate in the doctor's office or anywhere else in the world. So with that being said, give yourself permission. Let's talk about some of the common things that I see where a visual demonstration does not paint a full picture, and why it is so important to be training this way. And hopefully at the end of this video, you'll walk away feeling at least a little bit better. Maybe you don't still feel 100% confident going into classes without a visual demonstration, but you might at least be a little bit more bought into why that is such an important part of what we do here. So let's get into it. I want to start talking about the primary powerhouse, so our pelvis. And in Pilates, we think of the primary powerhouse pretty much as everything from the bottom of the ribs to the top of the knees. So when I'm thinking core, I'm not just including abs. I'm thinking all of the layers of our abs. I'm also thinking glutes. I'm also thinking quads. I'm thinking hip flexors. I'm thinking bottom ribs. So lots of things at play here. And if you're coming in with hypermobility or like a hip injury, especially like a torn labrum or anything where you feel like a popping or clicking in your hip all the time, there's a good chance that the order of operations in your body is just a little bit off, and that's causing you a lot more pain than it needs to. If we can get all of those muscles working in conjunction a little bit better, then you're probably going to be able to eliminate a lot of that pain immediately. And that always takes people a little bit by surprise. Like, it always kind of shocks people, like, oh my God, literally all I had to do was find a ½ inch more pelvic tuck and now my hip doesn't hurt. Like, yes, it really is that. It is that magical. And that's why I really want you to be understanding, like, okay, what's firing and when. So let's talk about one of my favorite moves. If you take my class, you know that you will never not see a half roll back or a roll up. It's one of my favorite things to do. I'm sitting here and I say, okay, straighten your legs out in front of you, flex your toes up, reach your arms out. You look at a visual representation and you see me sitting like this. What are some things that I'm looking at that you might not see? I'm looking at your kneecaps. Now, if you're hypermobile and you lock out your knees, so you can see kind of my knees go down, my heels go up because my knees hyperextend a little bit. When I lock out my knees like that, my hip flexors engage too. And now when I start to tuck my tail under, my hips are doing a whole lot of holding on and a whole lot of gripping. And right about here, there's a lot of tension building up, and it sucks, and it feels kind of like trash in my body. I don't want that. So I'm gonna roll up. When I'm working with someone hypermobile, I'm gonna say soften your knees. Press your heels down. They don't have to be fully locked out. So a lot of times I'll have you sitting here and I'll say relax your knees. And if you're just looking at me and you hear relax your knees, it might just go over your head. If you're not looking at me and you're sitting here in your own body and your legs are locked out, because I said straighten your legs, and if you're hypermobile, a straight leg for you feels like, this feels straight, but really you're over straightened. Sitting here, I say relax your knees, you go, oh, Now your quads turn off, which means as you start rolling back, before your hip flexors have a chance to do too much work, your abs get a chance to turn on, and that's what we're looking for. Another thing in a half roll back, I will almost always say, tuck your tail first, scoop your tail under, pull your abs in, roll from your pelvis, something along the lines to help you realize that the first action in this movement should come from the pelvis. Sometimes I'll even have you bend your knees, so if I see someone is having a really hard time getting that pelvic tuck because these lower abs are really hard to activate, especially when that's unfamiliar to you, I might say bend your knees a little bit more, pull your heels closer to your butt. Doing that gives you the opportunity to find a little bit more pelvic tuck. And I may say as you're doing this, notice that your legs start to straighten as you roll back. I'm not saying straighten your legs as you roll back. I'm saying notice that they may straighten. I'm inviting you to interpret and experience the movement a little bit more instead of being like, okay, I'm rolling back, I'm straightening my legs, I'm trying to do all these things at once. No, you're in the process of rolling back. You're tucking your tail. You're feeling your legs naturally soften. You're feeling your lower back hit the mat. And then you can take it all the way down, printing into the mat. And then peeling yourself up. Another part of the roll up that a verbal cue is very important for, the visual cue you might miss, and sometimes a visual is helpful with this. I like to show people this and then let them experience it, which is exactly why I'm gonna show it to you right now. As you're going for your roll up, there's gonna be this moment, probably about here, where your hip flexors are really gonna wanna take over, and you're gonna kind of flat body lift yourself up. You can see if you look at my spine, there wasn't a lot of roll in that roll up. So when I'm cueing this, I will tell people, as they're rolling up, there's gonna be that moment where you feel your hip flexors engaging. That's a feel, a brain-body connection. From here, you're gonna think about curving your spine, rounding your ribs over your pelvis, finding length in the middle part of your back. All of those cues, all of those verbal cues, if you don't know what you're looking at, you might miss that. You might not really, especially in that moment where it's really heavy and it's really hard and you're really struggling, you might not be able to kind of take all of that in. So it's really important that as you're training, you're giving yourself the opportunity to understand, it's not about me matching what the other person next to me is looking like. It's about me thinking about what's being asked of my individual body on this day. This is another reason I'm such a huge proponent of one-on-one Pilates as opposed to groups, and why CoreBound group classes only are max of 3, because it is just, every body is so uniquely different, and what right looks like on your body is not gonna match the person next to you. Which is a great segue into the next thing I wanted to talk about, and it is that correct Pilates looks different on every body because everybody's anatomy is different. Everybody is coming in with something different. So sometimes in a room, I'll have somebody who's very, very hypermobile. I'll have somebody who doesn't have any hypermobility, and then I'll have somebody who's incredibly stiff and tight and their body doesn't want to move at all. Or maybe it's just the difference between a hypermobile woman and then weightlifting, crossfitting man. Those are two very different bodies. So the cues that those bodies are going to get and the things that are going to be asked of those bodies in Pilates are going to look totally different. Like whenever I'm teaching something that involves flexibility, I always tell people, do not compare your body to mine because I've been training flexibility for 20 plus years. It's going to look a lot different for me than it looks for you. A great example of this exercise is something else that if you take my class, you have absolutely done before. I cannot think of a time that I teach a class where I do not incorporate this because it is so important for your back health and your nerve health. We're talking about our floss and our tree prep and our single leg circles in general. So as I'm here and I'm laying down, sometimes I'll have people bend their knees, sometimes I'll have people extend their legs. It just depends on what we're going for the day. When I pull my knee into my chest and I say, okay, grab the back of your legs and start to extend and bend your leg, people will start doing this. This feels pretty good, but it's not a whole lot of work. There are a lot of different ways to get more work out of this. So I will invite people, pull your knee closer to your chest. Keep your knee where it is right now in space, and then start to extend your leg. Notice how it's a lot more difficult for me to get that full extension. I'm pretty flexible, and even I can't get quite a full extension here. So when I say pull your knee down, I might also say, feel your leg pushing into your hands. Feel your shoulders working to hold your leg in place. Feel your leg get heavy in your hands. All of those are feelings. They're not things you're seeing. The movement looks the same, but I'm inviting you to feel the tension that exists between the back of your leg and between your hands. And a visual cue isn't going to help you see that. There's not really a way, other than when I say, really push your leg into your hands, pull your leg with your arms. But if you miss that moment in the class, if you're not looking at me when I make that cue, you're going to miss all of that work. So that cue to pull your knee in, keep it frozen where it's at in space, keep it closer to your chest, try not to let it move. Or even if in in-person class, I'll bring my hand here and say, pin your knee to my hand. Those things all cue you to get more work out of this exercise. Now, if you're hypermobile and it's really easy for you to get your knee all the way to your chest, I might cue you differently and say, leave a little bit of space between your thigh and your belly. Now you're thinking, okay, where's my thigh? Where's my belly? How much is a little bit of space? You know, a couple inches. And then I'm gonna say, push your leg into your hands to create a little bit of tension as you do the squats. Now, all of these things look the same. Like if you're just watching this video and you're not listening to me say any of these words, all of these things look visually so similar. But if you're following along, if you're participating, you probably have experienced they all feel very different, and that is the magic of being able to hear the cues and be like, okay, what is really being asked of my body right now in this moment? Especially with tree prep. So that exercise we were just working on, the bends and straightens of the leg, that is a sciatic nerve floss. That is like low back pain PT 101. So if you've ever had a back injury, if you've ever been in PT for sciatica, you've probably done some sort of nerve flossing. And that is one of my favorite exercises to explain to people or to show people as I'm working with them, hey, these little cues, like the way that you do this movement, the things that you feel during this movement are gonna change drastically. One of the principles of Pilates is precision, and I harp on this every time I teach someone for the first time. I bring this up, and I will make a small change, like I will push gently on their toes, or I will ask them to do something a little bit right here, and that small marginal percentage change is a complete 180 in how the exercise feels for them. That is the magic of Pilates, and that is the magic of working with someone whose eye is trained to know what they're looking at in your body. And someone like me who has a lot of experience, I can still see those things virtually. I can still see those things in person or through sweatpants, you know, like I know what I'm looking for in your body, and so I'm asking you to meet me there and to hear those words and to like interpret them on that deeper level. Especially with something like a sciatic nerve floss, where maybe you've gone to PT for your back for years and it has never helped. That was my experience. Having someone like me give you the tools to be like, oh, you want to make this actually work for you? Try it like this. You have to be willing to receive that information, you know? So sciatic nerve floss, half roll back, those are two really, really important things, especially for hypermobile people, especially for injured people, where you have to really be willing to listen to the cues, and also understanding that the person next to you who doesn't have the same issues or body as you, their correct version of that exercise is going to look totally different. Like a hypermobile person, they're not bringing their knee as close to their chest as possible. But someone who is working on flexibility, they are pulling their knee in all the way. Those two things feel completely different. They look completely different in the room. So relying on the person next to you to give you guidance is going to ultimately work against your progress. I want to talk about this now in terms of our secondary powerhouse. So in Pilates, like I said, primary powerhouse from the bottom ribs to the top of the knees. This is our main center of our body. This is going to be the first priority when you come to train with me, is getting your primary powerhouse to fire in the correct order of operations and getting your abs to work together to support your pelvis. That's priority one. When we get that part down and we're starting to branch into secondary powerhouse territory, that's like our upper body, like our back and shoulder girdle, this is where shoulder anatomy gets a little funky. So hips, ball and socket joint, right? You've got a ball, you've got a socket, the hip rolls through that socket. It can be a little bit more intuitive. Your rotator cuff is made up of 3 different components. There's a lot of different muscles, there's a lot of different stabilizers in here. There's a whole lot more going on in your shoulders. And because we spend so much of our time like this, like this, like this, bent over, this area of our body tends to be a little bit more counterintuitive for the general population. So pelvis, probably a little bit more counterintuitive if you're hypermobile. Upper body, shoulders, girdle, probably a little bit more counterintuitive for the general population. So I want to give you a visual example, and I want to help, let this be an opportunity to help train your eye. I'm going to say, put your arm out and up. I reach my arm out and up. If you don't know what you're looking for, then you're going to be like, okay, put my arm up. There are so many things that just happened here, though, that I want you to pay attention to. Watch my shoulder. It stays low. I'm looking for this slope from my neck to my shoulder. When I say lift your arm, so many people go like this. Or if you're having an injury, you might droop down and then sweep up. So one thing I'm automatically noticing is, what is the initiation point for you lifting your arm? Are you shortening this muscle to bring your arm out to the side? Are you compensating by doing a little dip to get over that first 30%? Is your shoulder rising up before you lift and you're getting right into these muscles before you ever have a chance to engage? Those are all things that you may or may not notice. So when I say put your arm up, I'm not just gonna say put your arm up, I'm gonna say draw your shoulders down. Reach your arms out to the side, reach them as far as you can. Notice how my shoulders stay down. Notice how my lats are starting to engage. Look at my wingspan getting long. And you can even see the muscle activation in my arms here. I also might say soften your elbows. You can see I hyperextend my elbows, so my natural straight, just like my knees, it wants to be a little bit further than normal, so I'm gonna say soften your elbows. That's gonna put a lot less pressure down here and a lot less pressure in my triceps. Now I say reach out to go up. That reach out is really important. That's where you might feel a little nerve tingle sensation that maybe you wouldn't have felt before, a little bit of spice from your fingers to your shoulders. Reach out to go up. Let your shoulders rise naturally, lengthening from the sides of your body. Now my shoulders, they're up. They're close to my ears. They're not in my ears, but they're close to my ears. And my lats now got the opportunity to engage. So I'm reaching out to go down, and then I'm finding an armpit squeeze to use my lats to lower my arm. So again, reaching out to go up, that activates my lats. That creates a little bit of space here. And it gives me the opportunity to reach out to go up even higher. My shoulder blade gets to naturally rise along its most ideal path towards my ear, and my lat gets to extend. As I reach out, I start to think about my lat. Armpit draws down. That armpit draw down cue is how you get your lat to support you so that you can bring your arm back down without putting too much pressure in these muscles that are already doing so much for you all day. Those are all things that maybe even just watching me as I'm explaining them, you still might not be able to detect the difference. That comes with time, it comes with understanding of anatomy, and shoulder anatomy is very complex. So as we're working on things, and I'm saying, pull your elbows in, bring your hands out, those are all those little details that if you're looking at me, you might think, oh, my arms are up, I'm doing little arm circles, whatever, this is fine. You're missing the work. If you think about reaching out with your shoulders down, if you think about reaching up, letting those shoulders rise naturally, you're activating so many more muscles, and you're also training your brain to use these muscles in the right order. So that's like the meat and potatoes of this conversation, is basically to just understand that when I'm giving you verbal cues, I don't expect you to respond right away. It is completely okay with me if it takes you a moment or two or three to respond. And if you have to ask, hey, can you say that again? Yes, absolutely, I will say it again. And if I do a bad job with my words, I'm pretty good about being like, wow, that was a terrible description, go like this. Like, I can give you guys a visual reference here and there if I'm not making myself clear. And seeing how you guys respond to my visual cues, that is feedback for me. So if I'm saying something and no one in the room is getting it, that's not a reflection on you. That's a reflection on me. That's a reflection on your teacher. When you have a good teacher, you should be able to listen to the words that come out of their mouth and follow through the whole sequence. And ideally, the other thoughts, the background noise in your head that's usually so loud when we're outside of class, usually you can be so focused on the words the instructor is saying, the actions they are asking you to take, applying them to your body, that all that other noise starts to fall away. If you're just watching someone and following along, you leave a lot of brain space for that noise, and that's not what we want here. We want you to give this hour to yourself. We want this to be like a meditation through movement that allows you to connect deeper to your body and to understand how to get things working together. So if you've ever said you were a visual learner, if it ever stresses you out that I don't give a demonstration, if you're nervous about taking an online class because you won't have a visual reference or because I won't be there to correct you, I hope this video has helped instill some trust that I know what I'm looking for and that I will be able to guide you through the movements in a way that you understand what's being asked of you. I never speak in anatomy terms because I don't want to be exclusive to people who may not have that background or maybe who their English is not their first language. I always try to use layman's speak, and then I try to give you the tools as we're going through the process to understand, okay, that's what my lat is. Like, now I feel that muscle. I didn't know what that was before, and now I do. And that's the work. That's what we're learning here. Not just exercises, not just flows, not just getting stronger, but how to learn your anatomy better through actual experience. So I hope this was helpful. Please let me know if you have any questions in the comments. And if you want more videos like this, please follow, please subscribe, tell me what you want to see. I talk about this stuff all day in my sessions, but I have no idea what you guys want to hear. So when you let me know, it is very helpful, and I want to deliver that to you. Bye for now.